let me ask you something, and I want you to sit with this. Don't brush past it. Don't nod and move on. Let it sink into you like a blade finding its place. When was the last time someone tried to pull a reaction out of you? Not a conversation. Not a discussion. I mean, they tried to pull something from you. They provoked. They poked. They pushed until they found the edge. And they waited. Long pause. Now here's the real question. Did they get it? Did they get the reaction they came for? Did you raise your voice? Did you explain yourself? Did you justify? Did you defend? Did you prove, in the very act of responding, that they'd found your edge? Pause. This script is not for the loud. This script is not for the ones who believe their anger is strength. This script is for the ones who are ready to understand something most people never will. The most powerful move available to you in any conflict is nothing. Long pause. Not nothing because you're weak. Not nothing because you have no words. Nothing because you have chosen. Deliberately, precisely, with full awareness of what silence does to the person standing across from you. Long pause. We're going to go deep into this. Into the psychology. Into the strategy. Into the neuroscience. Into the ancient wisdom that the most dangerous warriors in history all understood. And by the time we're done, you will never waste a reaction again. Long pause. Part 1. What they actually want. Slow breath. Let's begin at the root. When someone provokes you, what are they actually after? Think about this carefully, because most people answer wrong. They say they want to win the argument. They say they want to hurt me. They say they want to be right. Pause. Those are all wrong. What they want is evidence. Long pause. They want to stand in front of you and pull from you the confirmation of something they believe or fear. They want to make you small by making you loud. They want to make you weak by making you emotional. They want to see that they got to you. Because the moment they see that they got to you, they have power. The transaction is complete. Pause. Think about what a reaction is. Strip it of all its emotional content. At its core, a reaction is a confirmation. It says, you found me. You located the nerve. You know where I live. Long pause. Every time you react with anger, with tears, with frantic explanation, you are handing them a map, a detailed, accurate map of exactly where to push next time. Pause. And they will use it. People with bad intentions are not looking for a fight. They're looking for a lever to control you, a lever to diminish you, a lever to make themselves feel powerful in a world where they feel none. Long pause. Your reaction is that lever. Your silence removes it. Pause. Not silence as absence. Not silence as giving up. Silence is a deliberate, intelligent, devastating act of non-cooperation. Long pause. Part 2. The anatomy of a provocation. Voice drops lower. Before you can master silence, you need to understand what you're being subjected to. Because provocations don't always announce themselves. They don't always come as obvious attacks. Pause. Sometimes they come as questions. Why do you always have to be like this? Don't you think you're overreacting? I'm just saying what everyone else is thinking. Long pause. You hear what those do? They're not looking for answers. They're looking for engagement. They're doorways, designed to pull you through into a room where they control the furniture, where you're on the defensive before you even realize you've entered. Pause. Sometimes provocations come as comparisons. So-and-so would never act this way. You used to be different. I guess I just expected more from you. Long pause. Comparisons are designed to activate your ego, to make you feel the need to prove something, to compel you to justify yourself to someone who has already decided the verdict. Pause. And the moment you start justifying, The moment you start explaining how you're not what they said, you've accepted the premise. You've agreed to stand trial in their court, under their rules, with them as judge. Long pause. And sometimes provocations come wrapped in concern. I'm just worried about you. I'm only saying this because I care. You really need to hear this. Pause. This is the most insidious form, because it activates the part of you that doesn't want to be ungrateful. The part that was trained to receive concern with deference. The part that confuses emotional debt with truth. Long pause. But concern that requires your destabilization to deliver it isn't concern. It's control in a soft disguise. Pause. When you learn to identify the shape of a provocation, regardless of the wrapping it comes in, you stop being surprised by it. And a warrior who isn't surprised is a warrior who is already winning. Long pause. Part 3. The neuroscience of the trigger. Cold, precise tone. Let's go inside the body for a moment, because understanding what happens physiologically when you're provoked is a first step to interrupting it. Pause. Your brain has a structure called the amygdala. It's ancient. It predates language. It predates reason. It predates civilization by millions of years. Long pause. Its job is threat detection. It scans constantly, and when it detects what it categorizes as a threat, it fires. Fast. Before your prefrontal cortex, the part that thinks, reasons, and strategizes, even has a chance to respond. Pause. This is called the amygdala hijack. The emotional brain takes the wheel before the rational brain has even put on its seatbelt. Long pause. In the context of physical danger, this is genius. You don't have time to reason when a predator lunges. You move before you think. That reflex has saved the human species. Pause. But here's the problem. Your amygdala cannot distinguish between a lion in the grass and someone saying something dismissive at a dinner table. To it, a threat is a threat, and it fires accordingly. Long pause. So when someone provokes you, the amygdala interprets it as danger. It floods your system with cortisol and adrenaline. Your heart rate increases. Your voice rises. Your thoughts narrow. Your language degrades. You stop speaking in paragraphs. You start speaking in fragments. Pause. And the person who provoked you watches all of this happen and knows they succeeded. Long pause. But here's what happens on the other side. When you practice silence in response to trigger, when you pause, breathe, and do not react, philosophical, measured tone. This is not a new strategy. This is ancient. Pause. Sun Tzu, writing in the 5th century BC, said, "The supreme art war is to subdue the enemy without fighting, not to fight better, not to fight louder, to subdue without fighting at all." Long pause. The samurai understood something that took the West centuries to catch up with. They had a concept called Mushin, no mind, the state in which a warrior is completely present, completely calm, completely without reactive thought. Pause. The samurai who had mastered Mushin was the most dangerous person in any encounter, not because they were fastest, not because they were strongest, but because they could not be baited. Long pause. Miyamoto Musashi, the greatest swordsman in Japanese history, defeated opponents not through superior technique alone, but through studied stillness. He would arrive late to duels, not out of disrespect, because he understood that waiting unhinged men. That uncertainty was a weapon, that the one who arrived and stayed composed while the other burned with impatience had already won before a blade was drawn. Pause. He used silence and stillness as a pre-fight weapon, and it worked every single time. Long pause. The Stoics wrote about apatheia. Not apathy as we understand it, not indifference or numbness, but freedom from being governed by external things. Pause. Epictetus, who was born a slave and became one of the greatest philosophers in history, wrote, "Men are disturbed not by the things which happen, but by the opinions about the things." Long pause. What he meant was this: the provocation is not the problem. Your interpretation of the provocation is the problem. Your belief that you must respond is the problem. Your conviction that silence means weakness is the problem. Pause. Change the interpretation. Change the belief. And the weapon they pointed at you becomes air. Long pause. Marcus Aurelius, Roman emperor and Stoic philosopher, wrote daily to himself, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." Pause. He was the most powerful man in the known world, and he practiced this daily because he understood that the ability to remain unmoved was rarer and more valuable than any army he commanded. Long pause. This wisdom crosses cultures, centuries, and continents. Every tradition that has produced great humans has produced a version of this teaching. Be still. Stay sovereign. Let the storm move around you without moving you. Pause. They knew what you were learning right now. Silence is not the absence of power. Silence is the power. Long pause. Part 7. When they call it weakness, quiet, powerful. Oh, they'll try to frame it. They always do. Pause. They'll say you have nothing to say. They'll say you're a coward. They'll say that real strength speaks up. They'll say your silence proves their point. They'll say you're passive, disconnected, cold. Long pause. And here is what I need you to know about every single one of those accusations. They are the voice of someone watching their weapon fail. Pause. When a person says, "Your silence proves you're wrong," what they're actually saying is, "I need you to react so that I can keep winning." When a person says real strength would speak, what they're actually saying is, "Speaking would put you back in a dynamic I can control." Long pause. Watch this carefully. The loudest argument for why you should react always comes from the person who benefits most from your reaction. Pause. That's not a coincidence. That's the tell. Long pause. Because a person who genuinely wanted resolution wouldn't need to dismantle your composure to achieve it. Resolution doesn't require your explosion. Resolution doesn't require your collapse. Resolution doesn't require your surrender. Pause. Only control does. Only leverage does. Only the need to feel powerful at your expense does. Long pause. Let them call it weakness. Let them name it whatever they need to name it to manage their discomfort. Pause. You know what it is. You know what it costs to stand in fire and not flinch. You know what it takes to hold the line in your own chest while everything outside of you demands that you break. Long pause. That is not weakness. That is the rarest kind of strength there is. The strength that doesn't announce itself. The strength that doesn't need applause. The strength that simply stands and lets the noise crash against it like water against stone. Long pause. Water erodes stone eventually. They'll say, yes, but not today, and not without tremendous effort on the part of the water. Long pause. Part 8. Who you become in the silence. Voice becomes intimate, intense. I want to take you somewhere else for a moment. Away from the tactics, away from the strategy, into something quieter. Pause. When you practice silence under pressure, when you choose stillness over reaction again and again, something happens to you that has nothing to do with winning or losing. Long pause. You begin to meet yourself. Pause. Most people never have this experience. They move through life at the speed of reaction, stimulus to response, trigger to explosion, question to justification. Pause to there's no pause. Long pause. The interior life is loud with noise. Other people's needs. Other people's opinions. The constant management of how you're perceived. The relentless work of making sure everyone in every room is comfortable with you. Pause. Silence strips all of that away. Suddenly, there's nothing to manage, nothing to defend, nothing to perform. Long pause, and in that absence, something remarkable happens. You hear yourself, maybe for the first time in a long time, maybe for the first time ever. Pause. You find out what you actually think when you're not performing a thought for someone else. You find out what you actually feel when you're not translating the feeling into an argument. You find out who you actually are when no one is pulling at you. Long pause. That is not a small thing. Most people spend their entire lives never quite locating themselves beneath all the noise. They know who they are in relation to others. They don't know who they are alone. In the silence. In the stillness. Pause. When you begin to practice deliberate silence, you begin to build that relationship with yourself, the unperformed, undefended, uncontorted version of you. Long pause, and a person who knows who they are in silence cannot be easily shaken out of it by noise. Pause, because they have somewhere to return to. The voice becomes the quietest it has been. There's something about the physical reality of a silent person that I want to describe, because it's real. You can measure it. You can feel in a room. Pause. When a person is reactive, they expand and contract chaotically. Their energy moves outward in bursts and then retreats. They fill space with noise and then create vacuums. There is no center to them, no stable core. But a person who is genuinely still, a person who has cultivated silence as a practice, who has chosen composure not as performance but as reality, that person has a different physical presence. Long pause. They take up space differently, not loudly, not aggressively, just fully. Pause. There's a center to them, a gravitational quality. People in a room with that person often can't explain why their eyes keep returning there, why conversations seem to organize around them without anyone deciding that's what would happen. Long pause. The still person is not trying to be noticed. They are not performing stillness. They are simply present in a way that most people never are, because most people are always somewhere else, defending the past, rehearsing the future, managing the perception of others. Pause. The silent, still person is here. Only here. Completely here. And full presence is so rare that it reads as power, because it is. Long pause. When you are fully present, you see everything. You hear what isn't being said. You notice the micro expressions. You feel the shift in the room before it registers as language. Pause. And you respond when you choose to respond from that fullness, from that complete, unhurried, sovereign awareness. Long pause. That is not the response of someone who is provoked. That is the response of someone who chose. And the difference is felt by everyone in the room, even if no one can explain why. Long pause. Part 11. Building the life that silence protects. Building expansive. A life built on reactivity is a life built on other people's timelines. You move when they push. You stop when they stop. You escalate when they escalate. Your entire rhythm is set by forces outside yourself. Long pause. But a life built on chosen silence. A life where your response or your non-response is always a choice you make from your own center. That life runs on your clock. Your rhythm. Your terms. Pause. And here is what changes when you live that way. Long pause. Your relationships deepen, because the people worth having around are not threatened by your silence. They're drawn to your presence. They trust a person who doesn't flail. They open to a person who doesn't perform. They bring their real selves to someone whose real self is consistently there. Pause. Your decisions become cleaner, because decisions made from stillness have access to more of your intelligence. The noise isn't drowning out the signal. You can hear yourself think. You can feel what's true. Long pause. Your body recovers. The cortisol stops flooding. The adrenaline stops misfiring. The chronic tightness that lives in the chest of a reactive person begins to release. Pause. Not because life becomes less difficult, but because you stop adding your own fire to every flame someone else lights. Long pause. And the people who want to consume you with their noise, they find someone else. Not because you drove them away with a fight, but because you stop being an interesting target. Pause. There is nothing more discouraging to a person who feeds on reaction than a source that has gone completely dry. Long pause. Part 12. The legacy of the unmoved. Slow, final, monumental. One day, this matters. Listen carefully. One day, someone is going to be in the hardest moment of their life. Someone is going to be standing in the fire of someone else's provocation. Their heart is going to be pounding. Their hands are going to be shaking. Every cell in their body is going to be screaming at them to react. Pause. And they are going to think of you. Long pause. Not because you taught them in a classroom. Not because you gave them a speech. Not because you explained any of this to them. But because they saw you once. In a moment exactly like this one. Standing still. Breathing. Unmoved. Pause. And in that moment, something registered in them. Something wordless. A possibility they hadn't considered before. Long pause. That it is possible to stay still when everything demands motion. That it is possible to stay silent when everything demands sound. That it is possible to remain sovereign when everything is designed to make you abdicate. Pause. And they carry that image, without knowing they're carrying it, into their own fires, into their own silences. Long pause. And maybe they hold. Maybe for the first time in their life, they choose the silence, and something changes in them, and they become the image for someone else. Pause. And so it travels, through people, through generations. The knowledge that composure is not surrender, that silence is not defeat, that the still person in a room of noise is not absent. Long pause. They are the most present. They are the most powerful. They are the ones a room secretly orients toward when no one is watching. Pause. That is the legacy of the unmoved. Long pause. You started this with a question embedded in a challenge. Stay silent and win the war. And I want to leave you with the full weight of what that means. Pause. The war is not the argument. The war is not the conflict. The war is not the person across from you with the weapon in their words. Long pause. The war is the one inside you. Pause. That is the war. And silence is how you win it. Not once. Not in one great triumphant moment. But daily. Quietly. In the small, invisible, relentless choice to remain still when the world wants you to move. Long pause. So when they come, and they will come, with their noise and their need, and their carefully aimed provocations. Pause. You breathe. You stand. You look at them with eyes that are clear and calm, and completely unconcerned with what they think they found. Long pause. And you give them nothing. Not cold nothing. Not angry nothing. Not frightened nothing. Pause. Sovereign nothing. The nothing of someone who has already won before the battle began, because they decided in the quiet of their own chest that they will not be moved. Long pause. That decision, that single, small, enormous decision, that is the war. Pause. And you have already won it. Long pause. Silence.